All right. Well, give it just another minute here. I see we still have a few more people dialing in. We can get things rolling here. This is Tom Bugovich with Insurance Network America. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Just a quick side note. I'm actually in Minneapolis, Minnesota today, and if you all have not seen on the news, it is just brutal cold here. So I'm crossing my fingers that the internet's not going to give us any hiccups today for a call on with Dan Hodges and Protective. The temperature when I woke up this morning was a blustery minus 27, and then the wind chill was minus 57. So we've got some temperatures we haven't seen here in decades. And fun little stat is in Minneapolis overnight here, it was actually colder than it was in the Arctic. So we just brutal temperatures coming down, and just had to share that fact. It's fun to think of, but certainly dangerous, and we have to take it seriously. So we're all bundled up here, and hopefully you all are warm as well. So I would like to welcome you all to the call today on increasing client retention and policy count using life insurance. We've got Dan Hodges here with us, and he's got some excellent sales ideas, sales tools to share with you that you can use and implement into your practice. I'm not going to dip too far into that because Dan certainly does it a lot better than I do. And without too much hesitation here, I want to bring him on the line. But during the call, if you have questions, I'll ask you to please use the GoToWebinar menu to submit your questions. And when Dan's done with going through his tools and sales ideas, we will get to those questions. But a couple things here is, again, our focus is always to bring useful ideas to you that you can use and implement easily to help grow your practice, that you can turn around and use in client meetings right away. And that's exactly what Dan is the best at. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dan Hodges. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate that. I feel bad for you up there in Minnesota. It's 22 here in Utah, and I thought that was a little bit chilly. So hopefully everything works out well up there. But I wanted to thank everybody for joining today. We are going to focus most of our time today on tools and techniques that you can use that really get to the heart of what we try to do, which is increase your policy count. Depending on what kind of line of insurance you focus on, client retention will always increase if you have more policies per household, and you are more likely to keep those clients as well. So it really is a focus of what we're going to talk about today, and specifically how life insurance can do that. As we go in, I want to give you a little bit of background on myself. Not because I like a slide that shows my picture, and for most of you, you might not even believe that this is me, but this is me. But I wanted to give you some background on who I am, because I think it's relevant to our conversation today. So I'm a regional vice president with Protective Life, live in Utah, as I mentioned, married with 3 children, just got over my oldest son's birthday yesterday, turned 19. And I've been in the business since '98. Started as a property casualty agent. So for those of you out there that are on the property casualty side, I understand what you go through day to day. As a property casualty agent, I also sold individual health insurance. I also sold life insurance. I sold disability insurance, and I sold long-term care. So I think I have a good feeling for what most of you on the line today are facing and dealing with. After being a property casualty agent, I went into the brokerage space and basically worked at an INA that works with producers to connect insurance companies and products and acts as a broker. And then I've been with Protective Life since 2013. So that's a long time in this industry, and I think it's a long time in all of the various roles that, again, I think are relevant to help understand what everybody in this chain faces. I've dealt with clients. I've handled household fires and car accidents. I've handled burglaries and floods and of course, death claims. And so helping people prepare for what arguably is one of the biggest challenges in their life, whether it be a major claim or certainly a death claim. It's challenging, but I think it's rewarding. And so that's why I've been able to stay in this business as long as I have, and why I like talking about what we're going to talk about today, which really is, how do you make life insurance part of your day-to-day practice? Whether you focus on life insurance or not, this is a conversation that we're going to have that will help you understand why life insurance is crucial, not only for your clients, but also for you and your business practice, how you can utilize life insurance as another way to help retain more clients and make your business more successful. So I'll give you a quick overview of Protective Life. I'll give you a quick understanding of how you start this whole process. That's the biggest challenge, is you can have all kinds of statistics and data and everything, but how do you actually take that first step? So we're going to show you that. And we're going to show you a turnkey life insurance program that Protective has developed called our Life Checkup program that really gives you the tool and the track to run on. So if you're not a life insurance expert, if life insurance isn't your focus, this process is for you. And we'll talk in detail about what that is. And then we'll talk about how easy it is to submit business with Protective, because I think that's the third piece that really makes life insurance challenging in a lot of times, is the effort that it takes to process the business. Protective has made that as easy as we possibly can for you, and we'll talk about how that works. So let's go a little bit about Protective Life. So Protective has been in business for over 100 years. We're based in Birmingham, Alabama. Part of our growth platform, aside from selling our retail products, is acquisition. So we have acquired, over our 110-year plus history, 55 blocks of business and other insurance companies. Since I've been with Protective in the last 5 years, we've actually made 4 acquisitions. 3 of those 4 were the largest in our company's history. So the most recent being the acquisition of the Liberty Life and Annuity block from Liberty Mutual. So hopefully you've all seen those commercials on TV, the Liberty Mutual commercials. But that was our acquisition that we made last year. We actually just announced as well another acquisition of Great West Life. So that's part of our process to help our financial stability and our growth. But on the retail side, we really, really do put a large emphasis on the value that not only the client gets, but you, the agent, as well. And so what we do is we manufacture protection products that have the highest likelihood of performing as the brokerage firm, the agent, and the client originally intended at the time of purchase. And I think that's really, really important for everybody to understand, because as you're working with your clients and you're providing solutions to them, you want to ensure, and the client wants to make sure, that that policy is going to be there down the road when they need it, and hopefully there aren't a lot of differences. And that's what we pride ourselves in doing, is we make a product that you can comfortably say, hey, we think that this is going to be the same down the road when you need this policy. So part of that is the simplicity that we put into the products, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So how does this kind of all tie in? Well, the need for life insurance is there. Almost 9 in 10 Americans agree that people need life insurance, but only 60% say they have it. That's according to LIMRA and Life Happens. 1 in 5 people that have life insurance say they don't have enough. So you have clients today that you're probably going to meet with that fit one of these two. They either think they need life insurance or they think they need more life insurance. It's up to you to be able to show them how they can obtain that protection in an effective way and in a cost-effective way. So this is a LIMRA study, and I think this is really interesting because this is going to show you the importance that client retention has and that policy count plays in your practice. So what LIMRA did is they did a study of all of various different lines of insurance and how life insurance ownership impacted the ownership of the other product lines. So for example, we're going to target auto insurance. So if any of you are property casualty agents, this should speak volumes to you. So among those individuals who do not own life insurance, that do not own individual life insurance, about 74% of them own auto insurance. Now, if they own life insurance, that number jumps up to 89%. So you can see there's a substantial increase in the rate of auto ownership among people who own life insurance. So why should I sell life insurance to my clients? Because they're more likely to buy an auto policy from you. If you don't sell auto insurance, guess what? It just means they're more susceptible to life insurance in their overall protection plan. So they're more likely to buy more products from you. What about homeowners insurance? 43% own homeowners insurance that don't have life insurance. Those that do have life insurance, that ownership goes up to 64%. So again, you're dealing with clients that realize the importance of multiple product lines to protect their family. You're probably dealing with more mature clients. So the idea is if you can increase your auto and your home ownership and your other lines by selling life insurance, that's a great way to go about your practice and how you can develop your practice. The interesting statistic on here is that individuals who own group insurance and individual life insurance, look at those numbers. Auto insurance ownership is at 99% and homeowners insurance is at 86%. So it helps you position insurance as an overall protection in their family situation, and it opens up additional sales opportunities for you. Interesting thing about social media, we'll kind of tie that in as well because I don't want to ignore the social media aspect. But among people who do not own life insurance, more than 1 in 4 have insurance on their cell phones. So these are individuals that are very, very tied to technology. They are going to have multiple social media accounts, and that's an opportunity for you to generate some activity among that group of individuals. Whether or not you're currently doing any marketing for social media or not, I want these numbers to be relevant to you in your practice and show you how important it can be. So the first one is a website. If you don't have an up-to-date website, 67% of consumers say that they won't do business with you. That's a pretty substantial number. Websites today can be designed very easily, so put that into your notes that if you don't have a current website, you're missing out on a lot of opportunity among those clients that really utilize technology every day in their lives, which is a lot. Substantially, millennials, 54% of them are likely to ask someone in their social media connection for recommendations on financial professionals. So that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you're not currently doing anything there, you might want to at least look at that because I think that's a very relevant way of attracting new customers and, again, attracting the type of customers that you have the opportunity to build more insurance products and help them from a financial perspective. So how do you get started? I want to talk just for a quick second here on the ways that you can impress upon your clients and your prospects that life insurance is necessary. So again, this is a LIMRA study, and this shows which approach methods create the strongest impression for need for life insurance. As you could see, mail, direct mail, is number 1. So mailers, we think a lot of times, especially today, it's 2019, I throw a lot of my junk mail away, but guess what? When I get something from my agent, which is a State Farm agent for home and auto, I always open it. I know it's almost always mailers that talk about different product lines and bank products and all that kind of stuff. but I always open it because it's one of the pieces of mail that I know who it's coming from. So direct mail creates a strong impression for need, but which method creates the actual purchase that drives the client to the purchase? Well, no surprise there, it's in person. So take these statistics and use them as you go through your day, as you go through your week and your month, and find out, how am I trying to find new clients? Hopefully there's technology in there with the website, with social media. Hopefully I'm utilizing my in-person meetings and the direct mail correspondence that I'm sending out to try and emphasize that. And so I'll give you an example of how the direct mail works. That doesn't mean you have to go out and buy 10,000 names and mailers and do this and spend a lot of money. It could very simply be your current client base, you want to do a policy review with them. So you send out an annual statement and an annual request to review their policy information. Great. Make sure there's something in that letter that says, bring your life insurance in so that we can review that as part of your plan. Just something as simple as that. That way it's getting it in front of your client the first time. And then we're going to talk about more ways to get that in front of your client throughout the rest of the year. So real quick, what is being purchased by each of those methods? So direct mail, mostly term, small face amounts. In person are individuals who are buying higher face amounts and permanent products. Email and online, a lot of times that's just term insurance. And with a lot of the technology that's out there today, people that are trying to find an insurance agent online, if they're savvy enough to do that, they might be able to go on and apply for themselves. So in person definitely is the way to do it. And we're going to talk about some very specific ways when you have people that you're standing in front of, how you can bring up that life insurance conversation, because that's usually the hardest part. It's easy to put something in a mailer. It's easy to email something, but how do I actually talk to my clients about life insurance? So what we've created is what we call a life checkup kit. It's a front to back insurance 101 type kit that can be used with every single client that you have. It includes, how do you start the conversation, why the need for life insurance, kind of a 101 type, basics of life insurance, term versus permanent. It also has a complete a needs analysis and a policy review details in there. The nice thing about this is that it's already pre-packaged and professionally done. So you can utilize this as your own material so that when the life insurance conversation comes up, you don't have to scramble to try and figure out, oh yeah, which company should I talk about? How should I talk about it? You know, which life assessment should I use? Should I use a calculator online? There's really everything in here that you need. We'll start with how do you start the conversation. I think the best way to start the conversation with any client is to tell them that you need a copy of your life insurance policy. You need a copy of their life insurance policy. Very simply put, if something happens to your client, their family is going to come to you and say, something's happened, we need to know where we're at. Whether you're a property casualty agent, whether you're a financial advisor, whether you're a health insurance agent, Medicare supplement, doesn't matter. They're going to call you because you've been working with their spouse or their dad or whoever it might be that is your client. You need to be not only prepared for that conversation, you need to know what they have so that you can counsel them. I could tell you one of the worst conversations, this is from personal experience and from many agents that I've worked with. The worst conversation is when that type of a situation happens and there's a death. The client comes to you and you just say, I don't have anything. I never talked about life insurance with your husband or your wife, and I don't know what they have. It's a very uncomfortable conversation. Having a copy of their policy at the most minimum point is going to allow you to at least say, yes, I have a copy of that. Let's work through it. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to get one of two responses. Either they have coverage and you have an opportunity to review that policy, or they don't have coverage and now you can start that conversation with them about why they do need some, and if they've been putting it off or if they just haven't been approached about it. So this is by far, as I travel around and I meet with agencies and I meet with producers, and I do that all throughout the year, this is by far the best approach that I have found, regardless of what you sell as your primary line of insurance. This is the number one way to start the life insurance conversation. The number one most effective way to start it. It's non-threatening, and you don't really have any agenda other than, I want to make sure that you have life insurance, and I need to know what it is so that I can advise your family accordingly if something happens. Now, another way you can really get started with the conversation besides the asking for the file is what we call a getting started checklist. This is included in the Life Checkup Kit, and it's very similar to what you'd see at a doctor's office or when you go into the dentist. First thing when you check in, they hand you a clipboard and they say, fill out this information. We need your updated information. It's like that, but it is the specific things that client thinks are important at that time. So you can see some of the things that are on there. Have you changed jobs? Have you started a new business? Have you become a grandparent? Those are the types of things that when a client sees that and that applies to them, they're going to check that. Then all you have to do is look at that. And let's say, for example, they changed or lost jobs. Okay, that can bring up a couple of different conversation points, right? That can be, oh, great, what is it? Why was it? Was it because you wanted a different industry? Was it a closer commute? Was it whatever? Oh, did they have benefits? What did their benefits package look like? Did you have to leave your group policy at your other company and start a brand new one? How was that process? Well, it was probably not the easiest process. Why don't we get you a life insurance policy that'll stay with you regardless of where you work, and you won't have to leave it, and you won't have to be subject to whatever the company is currently offering. Great way to bring up life insurance. And it's something that's very, very relevant to them at that time because they check that box. So that is a great piece that can be used in person, can also be emailed to somebody or mailed in a mailer saying fill this out and bring it in your appointment. Also included in the Life Checkup Kit is a very simple needs analysis, and we try to make it as simple as we can. Income replacement plus immediate needs plus any debts. Let them give you the figures. There's a copy for them right in their kit, and then you'll have a copy, and they can go through and fill it out. What makes that valuable is it's actually their numbers. So it solidifies their actual need. A lot of times an insurance agent will ask a bunch of questions and tell the client, okay, you need $2.5 million of life insurance. The client goes, I don't need that much life insurance. What are you talking about? And he goes, no, here, see all these different things that we've built in. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, we wouldn't need maybe this thing or this thing. So it's very simple numbers, and you can see here it basically takes how much annual income would you need for how many years, and do you have any cash for immediate needs, or would we need to put that in there? And then do you have any debts and obligations? Then you add to that your available funds that they might already have in savings or other investment accounts, and there's your need. So it's a very simple way to actually get that life insurance number and get it from them. Reviewing life insurance policy is another piece that the kit addresses. And it's interesting because most of you in this industry have situations where you will meet with your client to do policy reviews, to do renewals, or to advise of rate changes with the company that they're with to maybe move them to another company. But annual life insurance policy reviews aren't really that consistent. So it really is important that when you're doing any kind of review with your client that you're talking about life insurance. Again, that's another point in their life that you can make sure they understand that you're offering life insurance as part of your business practice. But it's another way to get in front of them with the life insurance conversation. And at that time, it might be more relevant than the last time you talked to them. So again, repetition is the key. And you always want to remind your clients, once you realize that you need life insurance, it's probably because something has happened. Something is wrong. There's a medical issue that you have, and all of a sudden now it's real. So let's talk about life insurance before that situation gets there. So what do you do to review somebody's current life insurance policy? Well, again, if you're not really a seasoned life insurance professional, there's a couple of things you can get that make it very easy. One is an in-force ledger that will show all of their cash values. It'll show the premiums they've paid. It eliminates any of the misconceptions that the client might have on what they actually think about their life insurance. That's the overwhelming consensus that I get when I speak with everybody, is they think they have more life insurance than they really have. So let's find out exactly what they have so that we're not overestimating what we need to replace their current coverage. If you can't get that, you can get an annual statement. Every client will get an annual statement that'll show at least their policy number, the death benefit, their premium, things like that. And a lot of times those are available online. So clients can usually log in to the company's website. Protective allows this. Clients can log in and put in their Protective policy number and get all their values and the date that it's paid up to, and run an in-force illustration and do all that stuff. So most of that is accessible now online, which makes it easier for you to review a client's policy with them. And we have a one-page form that you can fill out. It's included in the kit, that the client can actually fill it out with the policy number. They can sign it, and then you can put your information as their advisor in, that allows you to receive that information directly from the insurance company. So that's kind of an overview of the Life Checkup Kit. It's everything bundled together that you would need to help your client through the life insurance conversation process. And it does it efficiently, and it does it effectively so that it doesn't distract you from your primary line of insurance. If you're a property casualty agent, you can focus on the property casualty side and then pull this Life Checkup Kit in, and it's got everything you need just to guide you through the conversation. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about, I think, is one of the most important that is missed in most life insurance sales, and I call it my Magnificent Seven, kind of like the old Western themed movie, but it's the 7 questions you must know about your client. So I know if you're a property casualty agent or a financial advisor, you don't get as much into the health of your clients. You don't talk much about their health. If you're selling them Medicare supplement or health insurance, or certainly life insurance or long-term care, you have to get into the health questions. It's just an absolute must. So if you're going to start talking to your client about life insurance, and that's not normally what you do, and you're going to start giving them prices for how much life insurance costs, you better know these 7 questions before you do it. Otherwise, you are much more likely to give them the wrong price, which means when the policy actually comes in, you're going to have to sell that policy again because it's going to be a higher price. And in most clients' mind, whatever that first number is that you give them, that's how much value they put on that life insurance policy. That's what they're willing to pay, and that's what they can afford. Even though they can afford more in a lot of scenarios, that's the budget that they set for themselves in their mind. So it's absolutely imperative that you ask these 7 questions. And I'm going to go through them quickly because they're included in some of the pieces that I'm going to make available to everybody here. But I want you to write them down, because you need to be able to, first of all, ask them. And we're going to talk about how you ask them, because it's how you ask them is just as important as asking them. So number 1, have you ever been rated or declined in the past? Very, very important. Most clients will know if they've been rated or declined. Say, have you ever applied for life insurance but did not get it because of some issue, some medical issue or something? Most of them will know yes or no. So that's kind of a number 1. If they have been rated or declined, that's when you need to start digging in and getting a little bit more detail. Well, when was it? Who was the company? Why were you declined? Because it could be a situation where they're just not eligible for life insurance. And if they aren't eligible for life insurance, guess what? You're going to waste their time, your time, INA's time, the insurance company's time, if you try to take them down that road. So these are all questions designed at making the whole process more efficient. And that is the number 1 question we'd want to ask. Second question you want to ask is not, do you smoke? Because do you smoke is an incorrect question to ask a client. The correct question is to ask, do you use tobacco, nicotine, or marijuana in any form. Why is it important to ask that way? Well, think of all the people that you see and that you deal with day to day. Many of them don't smoke, but some of them chew tobacco. Some of them use a vape pen. Some of them might use nicotine gum or nicotine patches. And believe it or not, there's a lot of them out there now that freely admit to using marijuana because it's been legalized in a lot of states now. The thing that you have to make sure that your client knows is that it's okay if they use any of these, because all of the life insurance companies are going to accept marijuana use. They're going to accept nicotine use. It just changes how they rate them, how they price them. So it's extremely important that you identify if they use any of those in any form. So don't say, do you smoke marijuana? Because someone might be using edibles and they might be using lollipops or gummy bears. And they will say, no, I don't smoke marijuana. So you say, do you use marijuana in any form? So tobacco, nicotine, marijuana, very, very important. You will get a wide range of answers from insurance companies on what the ratings are. To give you some perspective, Protective for marijuana use, up to twice a week, we will rate standard non-tobacco. Some companies rate tobacco. Some companies rate preferred non-tobacco. It just depends how much they use and in what form they use it. Same thing with nicotine and tobacco. For us, any nicotine use is tobacco rate. So whether they use a vape pen, whether they chew tobacco, whether they're chewing nicotine gum, any of those, we're going to give them a tobacco rating. So important to ask that question in that form. Build blood pressure and cholesterol is the next one. Don't guess on the build. When I say build, I mean height and weight. Don't guess somebody's height and weight, because guess what? You're going to be wrong more often than you'll be right. And if you're 10 pounds or 15 pounds off, which believe me is very easy to be off by that much, then all of a sudden the price you're giving them is not valid. If you guess their height by 2 inches higher and 15 pounds shorter or 15 pounds lighter, you could be a full rate class away. So don't guess on their build, just ask them. How can you make them comfortable with asking them their build? Well, you can find different ways to approach it. It's challenging, but say, in order for me to get the right price, I need to know your height and I need to know if you fall within this guideline for weight. Get a build chart. We have a build chart and you can use that. You don't have to ask them necessarily. You can say, hey, for someone your height, which is how high again, or how tall, show them what the weight guideline is. It's usually between these, this weight and this weight. Say, do you fall within here? They can say yes. Okay, great. Then at least you have that idea. Let them know that the examiner, if they need an exam, they're going to come out and take their weight as well. They're also going to order medical records. So we're going to get their weight from their doctor's statements. So it's not something they're going to be able to hide from, but just try and make it as comfortable as possible. Blood pressure and cholesterol, if they don't know it, it's probably because they don't have a problem. They're not on medication. They're not being followed for it. If they are on medication and they're being followed for it, they'll know what their blood pressure and cholesterol is. Prescription drugs, recent and current. Ask it just that way. Do you currently take any prescription drugs, or have you recently stopped taking any prescription drugs? Very, very relevant. They should know. If they start getting into a long list of prescription drugs that they're on, then it helps set the tone of what you're probably in store for and how you're going to have to dig into the medical information. Family history. This is important, and there's a couple of key pieces here. Most insurance companies consider family history with immediate family members, so parents and siblings, for two different types of conditions, cancer and heart disease. So those are really the only two you have to worry about. But the way you ask the question is, has there been a history of heart disease or cancer in your family prior to the age of 60? So your parents, were they diagnosed with heart disease or cancer, or any siblings prior to their age 60? That's the key question to ask. If the answer is yes, find out whether it was just a diagnosis of it or if there was a death that occurred because of it. This could make a difference of you quoting a preferred best all the way down to a standard. So if somebody has a family history, a death of heart disease, say their father died of heart disease prior to age 60, most insurance companies, you're not getting preferred best. You might not even get preferred. So important to ask that question because it can have a significant impact on the rate that you quote. Hobbies and avocations: skydiving, scuba diving, mountain climbing, things like that. Those are the hobbies and avocations that you need to ask. Every insurance company is going to have a questionnaire. So if they say, yes, I do, great. Just get a questionnaire. You don't need to know anything about those activities. There are some key things as you go along, like in scuba diving. How far do you dive? How deep? Do you do any wreck diving or salvage diving? Do you do any night diving? Things like that. But every company is going to have a questionnaire, so you'll be able to have them actually fill that out. You just need to identify if that's an issue. Again, can cause a significant difference on the rate that you're going to quote them. Last one is driving record. So for those of you in the P&C space, you might have a little advantage here because you might know because they have an auto policy with you. But really, really important to ask driving record. This one is missed a lot. And I get a lot of calls from producers saying, hey, I don't understand why my client, he's in perfect health, he runs triathlons. I don't understand why you guys gave him, a standard. Well, he's got 5 speeding tickets in the last 2 years. That's an increase in mortality risk. So every company is going to have their guidelines for motor vehicle accidents, driver's license violations. Specifically, we want to know if there's been any DUIs or reckless driving, but you need to ask any driving history within the last 5 years. That's the number of years that you're going to want to find out. So that's the Magnificent 7. If you don't ask those questions, you could be giving them a significantly different price than they should be preparing for, and it makes the entire process much more challenging on the back end. So ask these questions. Like I said, most insurance companies, like Protective, are going to have tools that can help you walk through these questions. We're going to have build charts. We're going to have questionnaires. We're going to have guidelines for blood pressure, cholesterol, all of that. So you don't have to memorize any of that. You just have to know to ask the questions. So I want to move into the part of why Protective is a good fit for you. We've talked about how you start the conversation, the statistics for the need for life insurance, talked about how you medically underwrite your clients and do some field underwriting. Why is Protective a good fit for you? Well, we have 2 very competitive term products that have very different functions. One, which is our classic choice term, is a true term policy. What you see is what you get. You want 10-year, 20-year, 30-year term. That's it. That's all you got. Then we have what we call our custom choice UL, which even though it has a UL in the name, it still looks like a term, but it's much, much more flexible because it is built on a universal life product. So it allows some flexibility of premium that's not available in a typical term policy. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But it's generally higher, and there's a lot of years in there where you're overpaying for coverage. Now, for those of you who've been in the industry long enough, decreasing term just didn't work out, and it wasn't priced correctly, and it really went away. So we were stuck with level term. And pretty much that's where we've seen for the last 15 plus years. So what Protective has is we have a little bit of a different solution. We can take and utilize our 20-year term product, and it's again that custom choice UL that I talked about, because the fundamental process that policy follows is it gives you 20 years of death benefit protection. We're going to set it at $500,000, just a little bit more than what they need for the mortgage. And we do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, it gives the client more coverage. They can actually benefit from having some higher death benefit. The second thing it does is it allows the face amount once the policy starts to decrease. So what happens with a typical term policy is if you have a 20-year term, in year 21, the premium goes up significantly, but the face amount stays the same. With custom choice, it's the exact opposite. The premium will stay exactly the same, but the death benefit will decrease each year. So the client can keep that policy as long as they want. So following that design, let's look at this slide. It shows 500,000 level death benefit for 20 years. Then it decreases through the 30th year. But you can see the yellow, which is the face amount, is still higher than the mortgage balance. So we've covered the mortgage in every one of those years, but we've done it by selling our client a 20-year policy. Nobody else will be able to use a 20-year policy to protect a 30-year loan. But because of the decreasing death benefit feature, we can use a 20-year policy, save premium because it's a shorter duration product. We're still guaranteeing the client a level premium through the entire 30 years. Their premium will not change. But the death benefit will follow kind of that decreasing term design that we had talked about earlier. So very, very solid way to get this in front of your client and to show them that there's not only a better way to protect this mortgage, but there's a less expensive way to protect the mortgage. And you are not going to get undersold on this because no other product will work. No other 20-year term will work. And the 30-year term policies are just going to be more expensive. So it's a great way to lock in your competitive advantage with this client and show them a unique solution to a very, very common problem that most people have. And guess what? Since it's only their mortgage that you're starting with, it's a smaller death benefit, it's less underwriting, it's a lot more affordable, and it usually can get done a lot faster. So if this is your starting point to talk to a client about life insurance, it's a great starting point. Very relevant to their need, very affordable, and can be done quickly. Then, as you go through your annual review process with them, you say, hey, we got you underwritten last year for the mortgage protection. Now let's talk about maybe something a little bit more long-term to cover some other obligations. And it's a familiar process for that client. And you add a policy on at that point, or you convert part of a policy that you already wrote. So it's a great way from a business development perspective to keep life insurance in front of your clients, but to start out with probably the easiest one that you can do, which is protecting their mortgage. So we're going to talk really quick about submitting the application, because again, I think this is one of the the hardest points when it comes to life insurance is, okay, I've talked to my client. Now, how do I go through this whole process? We've tried to make it as easy as possible on you. Another LIMRA study of those people that bought life insurance, half of them said they were more likely to purchase it if it was priced without a physical exam. So we're going to talk about Protective's life underwriting solution, which is called Plus, which a lot of companies call an accelerated underwriting, but it does just that. It allows the client to obtain coverage without a medical exam, without the blood, and without the urine specimen, and without any medical records. Now, there's obviously very specific criteria for a client to get this, and we'll talk about that in a second, but it's a way for a client to get coverage faster and less invasive. So again, that's called Plus. This is really how it works. You submit what we call an easy app, which is a version of an online application. It's not even an online application. It's the shell of an online application. So imagine the minimum amount of information that you would need to submit to an insurance company just to set up a case, just to set up a policy. We will then call your client. So a Protective Life employee will call your customer and complete the full application with them over the phone. That includes voice authorizations for us to run things like their motor vehicle report, their medical information bureau, the prescription drug check. So we will get a verbal authorization from them so that we can obtain all that information essentially instantly. Once we're done with the interview, which takes about 20 to 25 minutes, we will email the application to the client to sign electronically. Once that signature comes back to us, If it falls into the eligibility criteria for the Plus program, it will go ahead and it will issue a policy within 48 to 72 hours, and it will electronically deliver that policy to your client via email. As you can see, from start to finish, we've taken all of the paperwork out of your hands. We've also taken the vast majority of the information that you would need to obtain for an application out of your hands. We've taken anything that you need to mail or send to a client out of your hands. It's very, very streamlined. You submit some information, we take over, we do all the rest of the work. Your commissions are going to be the same for this process. So you don't take any kind of a reduction in commissions for this process. We just make it very, very easy for you. And when life insurance is not your primary line of business, I think that is a very key linchpin in the whole process. You're focused on property casualty or health insurance or asset management. Let us worry about the life insurance. You give us a little bit of detail, we'll take over and do the rest. Now, here's that eligibility criteria for the accelerated underwriting that we call Plus. If they are underage, from ages 18 through 45, up to $1 million on both of our term products. So this is available only on the term products. Standard preferred or super preferred rates. We call that select preferred. If they fall into those age and face amounts and rate classes, or 46 to 60, up to $500,000 at preferred and select preferred. That's the first eligibility criteria. The second eligibility criteria that you need to go into is the medical information. And guess what medical information you need to ask to determine whether or not they will go through accelerated underwriting? It's pretty much the Magnificent Seven that we've already talked about. So again, we have a one-page guideline that can help you ask these questions, not to tell your client that they won't need an exam or any labs, because I would not tell your client that. The way I would say it to your client is, hey, I'm going to ask you some medical questions because that'll help me determine what the price would be, but it's also going to help me determine how quickly we can get this policy turned around for you. If you go through those medical questions and it looks like there's a good chance that they would qualify based on their responses, hey, you know what? It looks like we might qualify for what we call an accelerated process that might take days rather than weeks or months. That's a really good way to put it to them, because you're not setting a false expectation that they might not need exam and labs, but you're setting a time frame. So last thing I want to mention to you, we've talked about how you start the conversation. We talked about how you can market to your clients. We've gotten into some field underwriting. We've talked about products, and we've also talked about how you can submit business. One thing I want to tie in is what we call our resources and tools for agents and advisors. So the website is sellwhatmatters.com. There's no password protection, but it basically gives you access to videos, web banner ads, prospecting letters, and one-page sales ideas like the mortgage term that we talked about, the mortgage protection concept, that you can co-brand with your agency name, your contact information, and you can use all of those pieces with your clients. So whether they're coming into the office and you want to show them something, you can print that out with your information on it, give it to them, and again, that's a touch point that they have to actually take something home with them. And when the right time is appropriate for them to talk about life insurance, they now have something. They have the life checkup kit. They have the mortgage term concept. They have whatever it is that you've given them that has your name on it, and they're more likely to call you back. So again, it's flooding that market, flooding your prospects and your clients with the life insurance opportunity. And as those come up, you're going to have those clients coming in and saying, yeah, I know we talked about this. I think we need to do that now. So great resource. The website is not password protected or anything, so you can just go in and access it. It's very easy to navigate. So quick recap, choose an approach method that you think will work. Keep in mind, the in-person meetings are the most effective for driving sales. Utilize our Life Checkup Kit. It's a simple and repeatable approach that you can do with every client meeting, with every annual review, that makes it easy to bring in that life insurance conversation. Leverage our technology. Utilize our online application, our accelerated underwriting process, the e-policy delivery. You don't have to fill out paper anymore. You don't have to mail anything in. You don't have to fax anything. All of that stuff can be done electronically, and we can obtain those things electronically through e-signatures. My suggestion to you as a takeaway would be to target 3 of your clients that have homes and have mortgages, and talk to them about this mortgage protection concept that we talked about. It's going to be unique for them. They're not going to have heard it before. Again, Protective is the only company in the industry that has that type of product. So it's going to be a situation where it will be new for your client, and it's going to be cost effective for them. Schedule a meeting with them, whether it's a financial review or a comprehensive annual review, or whether it's just to talk about the mortgage, but schedule a meeting with them to talk about it. Then you can work with INA to obtain the materials that we've all talked about here, the Life Checkup Kits, any product information that you would need, the illustrations, anything. They can provide that kind of support for you. So I know that was a lot of information that we went through. Tom, I want to go ahead and turn it back to you, see if we have any questions. I will make these materials available. I can get them to you and you can distribute those out. But if you want, go ahead and take back over, and we'll see if there's any questions in there.
Terrific. Thank you. You can leave that last slide up there too, Dan.
Yep.
I appreciate that. And we do have the Life Checkup Kit, but yeah, we will make all of these materials available to you. If it sounds like I'm pandering, I am. It's easy to see why Dan is one of the best out there with what he does. Just fantastic. Get back to basics. Starting the conversation, how to increase policy count, how to increase client retention. Really appreciate it, Dan. This is great stuff that you should be able to turn around and use immediately, and target 3 clients to have this mortgage conversation. It's fantastic. As far as questions, I know we're running short on time. If you have any questions, still, please feel free to submit them in the GoToWebinar menu there. Otherwise, we will be following up with you. But one question that's out there, Dan, is going back to the Life Checkup Kit. Are there any items from this kit that you would recommend that agents send to their clients in advance of a meeting, or would you just simply have them wait to have the conversation face to face? Like, are there any best practices in sending this, or sending certain elements of it in advance to get them to think about it?
Yeah, great question. So there are additional pieces in the kit than what I've gone over. I wouldn't send the entire kit to them. I would probably send 2 different things to them. None of them are really targeted at the life insurance sale, because what you don't want to have happen is the client to say, oh, great, now I'm just going to talk about this and I got to get all this information. So the first thing I would send is that getting started checklist. That can be something that the client can have and just say, go through and talk about all the things that are important to them. The second piece would be the letter to the insurance company asking for the in-force policy information. So when you set up an appointment or you mail them the letter and you say, hey, it's time for our annual review, please bring in this information. If you have life insurance, please fill out this letter, this company letter. And really all it is the policy number that the client has. That's really all they need to fill out is the policy number. And then you can put your information in there. They sign it. So what it does is it makes it important to them. Oh, I've got this form I need to fill out to bring into my agent. Great. That combined with the getting started checklist are probably the 2 pieces that I might send ahead of time. Everything else, because it is informative and it needs conversation, I would leave for the meeting.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay, and again, I know we're running short on time. I want to thank everyone that joined our call today. Thank you to our active producers and your ongoing commitment and partnerships with us at INA. For those of you on the call that are not yet contracted with Insurance Network America or Protective, we want an opportunity to earn that business. So I encourage you to call us, 800-456-7999. We will be following up with all of you on the call, obviously, to get these pieces in your hands, to answer any questions you have, help you run proposals for upcoming meetings and so forth. If you have specific clients in mind, we'll be following up in the next day. But if you have specific clients in mind or proposals you want to see, don't wait for us to call you. 800-456-7999. We are here to help you. That is about it. I want to thank you again, Dan, for being here today, and thank you everyone for joining us. And have a terrific day, everybody. Stay warm. Appreciate all the messages on how warm it is where you guys are in other parts of the country. But have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you so much.